Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now. What is next for Izzy? That's the question, right? What is next for Izzy? Ricky, there's a lot of options. Like, people think there's not, but there is a lot of options. What do you see?
One that surprised the hell out of me. I think KHAMZAT, probably the one that everyone's kind of hoping for, right? KHAMZAT needs one. I think he's kind of gets the exception to the rule of like you got to climb the ladder at the weight class. I don't think anybody cares about that. If he goes out there and gets one of those top 5 guys and wins, boom, straight to Izzy. But the guy that I saw, I don't know how he's going to do this, was Jan Blachowicz, who he lost to at 205, saying, hey, let's run this back. You like to get revenge. I beat you once. Let's run it back at 185. Now, I don't know how he makes 185. I don't know if he's going to take a leg off of himself or what, but if he's serious and he can make 185, that's an option I honestly never even thought about, was him coming down to 185 and saying, hey, I'm the only other guy that beat you. Let me try to beat you and be the 185-pound champion as well.
Yo,
That's
I just want to jump in and say that this is trilogy necessary. Like, so necessary. From my point of view, Pereira was brought into the UFC to help, thaw out the division that Izzy was icing. He was creating an iced out division. They brought him in, and let's be honest, they gave him the matches, they gave him strikers, they gave him no grapplers on his way there. They got the result. They got the result they want. I don't know if the result was what they wanted, but they got that high intensity championship match for Izzy's defense. Because let's face it, what is he supposed to do? Fight Vettori for the third time? Fight Whitaker for the third time? Like, it was getting a little. And it's not just Izzy's fault. It's partially Whitaker's fault and Vettori's fault. They keep killing everybody else. So you kind of have like a stale, almost a stale situation going on. Pereira comes in, shocks the world, blows up the whole scene, gets the KO win, right? Gets the KO win, and then he gets KO'd himself in the second part. So I think that this is so perfectly set up for an instant trilogy. I know the UFC cares about pay-per-views. It's in everybody's mind. All right, these guys knock each other out. Look at the hype and love that Moreno and Figgy got for their championship battles against each other. But this is bigger men sleeping each other. I don't really think it gets better than this. And if the UFC is just trying to squeeze maximum dollar out of their fighters, which I think is their theme, let's just run the trilogy, man. Like, run the trilogy. Let KHAMZAT fight somebody in the meantime. Whatever. Let that play out so that a new, fresh order of challengers can be, come for Izzy. And of course, Pereira always has 205. Like, I think that's pretty much understood. Like, if things go bad or don't go great for Alex, 205 is always there for him. But for me, give me the trilogy. That's what I want.
I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I'm going to rip your trilogy to shreds, and I'm going to tell you why. Number one, the first fight, Izzy was winning the fight, like, convincingly until he was knocked out, right? That has something to do with why you should not want an immediate trilogy. Number two, this fight, Izzy took him out in the second round, I believe, right? Second round. It was clear, like definite, like Izzy won the fight, right? And I feel like when you look at the division and you look at like Pereira, the dude doesn't even have 10 fights, man. Like, the UFC catered to him. The reason why is because Izzy was the champion, and then there was the history. They wanted to build off that. Of course, they give him the chance. Alex Pereira, if he would have won this fight, then they would have pushed Alex much, much more. But since he lost, since he got knocked out, since he got slept, I don't think they're going to push for a trilogy. And also, Izzy doesn't want it. You know what I mean? And Izzy does have some power. The reason why Izzy has a power, I'm going to tell you why Izzy has power. I'm going to put it on the screen right here for you guys to see why Izzy has power. Oh, here we go. Boom, right here. Look at this. Look at the schedule that he put up since he became, like, since Anderson Silva, right? And even since after the pandemic, that pandemic, he only fought once. It was the pandemic year. He fought Paulo Costa in 2020. But after 2020, he fought twice in 2021, The first one he lost to Jan Blachowicz at light heavyweight, and then he came back and beat Marvin Vettori. 2022, he fought 3 times and lost his title in November, and then he came back this year in April 2023 and won the title back. This dude has done so much for the promotion, and he's kept so busy. You gotta like respect that. And Alex, if he would have knocked him out, then you push him, but he's not in that position anymore. He's not in the position of warranting any kind of rematch, especially a trilogy. And it's a risk for the UFC as well, I think. You know what I mean? I don't think the UFC really wants it. If they did want it, I think Dana White would have been talking about it a little bit more during the press conference. But he immediately said, after someone asked him, that I think Pereira's going to go to 205. And that goes back to my conspiracy theory that I had about Pereira, that eventually that weight cut would catch up to him. And I think it did in this fight. His chin wasn't there and he got clobbered, and Stylebender took advantage of that, right? The chin. I like the Jan situation. You know why? Because Izzy lost to Jan, right? And Jan is smart by doing this. You know what I mean? A lot of fighters, they don't take advantage of this, right? At the moment, it should be taken advantage of. And Jan did that. Right after Stylebender won, Jan tweets out the perfect tweet about, let's run it back. I'm going to drop. And if you look at Jan, I don't think Jan is that big of a 205er as well. He doesn't look as big as like a Prohaska. You know what I mean? He didn't look as big as Ankalaev, right? I don't know where he walks around at, but I believe Jan, he's going to be calling the PI. He's going to get a nutritionist. He's going to do what it needs to be done, is because he's not even close to the title, I don't think, at 205. There's too many guys now lined up, right? There's too many contenders.
Yeah, dude, and his time's running out. Let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly, right? So you got to pick your fights carefully. He's old. He's almost 40, right? So why not do it now? Drop down.
It's exactly what you just have posted right here. It's what Rob was just mentioning earlier. Izzy's clean out the division. The two people we're talking about aren't 185ers. KHAMZAT was a 170 and Jan was at 205. So we're talking about two guys, again, that you have to bring into the division. Where else do you go?
And KHAMZAT, I don't understand why people are like pushing him to be fighting for the title now. Like, who has he beaten at 185?
It's because they ran out. They ran out of people. It's because they don't like Izzy, and they've ran out of people to beat him. So they're just going to they're just hoping for somebody else. They're just hoping that KHAMZAT's wrestling pedigree could get in there and take Izzy down, hold him down. That's all it is. People just, like you said, why is Izzy so popular? Because he does have so many people that hate him. They just want to see him lose, so they're reaching for somebody to beat him.
It makes no sense of why people are pushing for KHAMZAT to rush in there. And Ricky was talking about like why they would be pushing, but the fans, they have no say, to be honest with you. You know, like Dana White likes to say, like, we put on the fights that the fans want. Yeah,
No,
somewhat, but not all the time, right? Not all the time. Anyways, KHAMZAT, I don't believe he's in the picture. I don't even think he fights Pereira next. I believe Pereira is going to be leading the division. And I was talking about this earlier. Wouldn't it be crazy if Pereira goes up to 205, fights? Because I think Pereira, he jumps into like title contention right away, just because he's the former champion and he can fight anybody up there. He could fight a guy in the top 5. I believe he could
fight. Yeah. For him. This is a crazy thing. I'm more excited for Pereira at 205 than I am for what else Izzy has going on at 185. I'm more excited to see Alex move up because stylistically they still fit him, whether it's Yuri, whether it's Jamal Hill. Those guys aren't, wrestling heavy. They're going to strike with him. And anybody who's going to strike with that dude, he is scary. So, yeah, I am very excited for what he has left. That's why I wasn't mad at this one. I was going for Izzy. I'll say it. Everybody knows. Rob, you knew. I was going for Izzy. I wanted that comeback story. I'm a sucker for it. But even when Pereira lost, I'm like, there's so much for him at 205 to stay at 185 if he doesn't get the trilogy. Do we want to see him get out wrestled by Whitaker? Do we want to see him get out wrestled by Vettori? Or do we want to see those matchups with Yuri or Jamal Hill? I think those are more intriguing.
Oh, for sure, right? So we'll get to Alex in a second, right? Because there's a deep dive we could do with Alex. But let's focus on Izzy a little bit longer. Izzy next fight, I can see it happening. I could see him getting a quick turnaround, to be honest with you. A quick turnaround. And I see if Jan, like right now they're working out a deal. You know, the UFC is like the gears are grinding to see like where can we put Jan, because Jan he just fought for the title at 205. I think people forgot about that, right? It was a draw, and a lot of people thought he lost, but it wasn't a loss, right? It wasn't a loss on the record. It was a draw. He fought for the title. He beat Izzy. So those are two things that he's got going with for him, right? And Izzy, why would you not welcome that fight at 185? Why would you not? It's a title defense against a former champ you lost to, and he's coming down depleted, and he's 40 years old. Why not? Why not allow yourself to style on somebody like that, especially at your weight class? That's a beautiful fight for Izzy, and I know his management is probably like, yeah, that's the fight.
Set
That's
that up.
stylistically, that's the fight we want, man. Anything last you want to say about Izzy and like what do you see in his future? Like, of course, Jan could be the next fight, but what would be option number 2? Is it Khamzat? J-Spec, is it Khamzat?
I don't want it to be. I'll be honest. Can I just say that my imagination land, and I know you killed my trilogy dream, but my dream card would be headlined by the trilogy, and the co-main would be Khamzat and Shavkat. I've heard so many people desire Khamzat versus Shavkat, and I desire it too. So I know that doesn't directly answer who's next for Izzy. Honestly, looking at this list right here, come on, let's be honest. Like, we've watched all these fights, and nobody really gave a shit about Cannonier, or the Whittaker rematch was kind of like, it was cool, but everybody already
People
knew
gave
what
a shit because they wanted Izzy to lose. They don't care
Yeah.
about the opponent. He's getting to the point, like someone was telling me, he's getting to the point where it doesn't matter who he's fighting anymore. As long as he's fighting, there's people that want him to lose, and there's people that want him to win.
That's the Floyd. That's what Floyd had for so long.
Yeah.
Floyd
But
Mayweather.
go ahead.
Sorry,
J-Spec.
all the great champions, all the real great champions create that effect upon themselves. Floyd had it happen to him, RJJ had it to him, Spider Silva had it happen to him, so on and so forth. All the great champions ice the division, and suddenly we just want to see them lose just for the sake of losing. And that's what I mean. Who do we really think can beat him right now in the division, and that's actually deserving without pulling somebody from like the 15th spot in the rankings, Like, I don't know. I really don't.
I'll tell you. This is
Please.
what if the UFC goes to Africa, and we saw Izzy talking about an unnamed middleweight coming up, he needs to prove himself. If the UFC goes to Africa, especially South Africa, and does a pay-per-view, Izzy headlines against Dricus du Plessis. They push him into that title fight. Why would you not do that if you have a fight in Africa? You know what I mean?
Dude,
it's perfect.
This is why JHK is the fucking man, because he's smart. You know what? You're right, because that's what the UFC does, right? They try to push into regions via the fighter's homeland. So yes, Dricus, yes, boom, great
They
work.
did it to Zhang Wei Li against Jessica Andrade when they went back to China. It was even a fight night, and they put a title fight on there. And guess what happened? The impossible.
Right.
Zhang Wei Li goes in there, gets the first round knockout, right? You never know what's going to happen in a fight. You know what I mean? Is he beatable? Yes, he's beatable. He's lost already twice, right? But
and just to that, that's what I was trying to say about the new era of middleweight and just fighting in general. Any punch, any strike could change the game. But I think we're seeing, as obvious right now with these championship bouts that happen just back to back between the two men, like the guys are so fucking big now. Dude, like middleweights are bigger than last era's light heavyweights. I mean, it is a dangerous proposition for all men involved in that weight class. I mean, single strike, we're basically a boxing heavyweight category. We're just single strikes and your streak. So yeah, man, that good call on du Plessis, man. That's still like, I'm 2 thumbs up.
Got to put on your promoter hat for that one. Just if you have an analyst hat on, I think du Plessis gets styled on. But if you got the promoter hat on, it does make sense, especially because Izzy said it himself. Didn't say I don't want to give him any clout while giving him clout, but he brought him up. If you bring him up, we're going to talk about him, Izzy.
Izzy knows what he's doing with these like sound bites and these little clips, and what he does is like he sets things up. You know what I mean? The celebrations, those are all like he's creating iconic moments for himself. Like he's writing, like people think he's cringe and he's talking about his story. That's like for real. That's his story. Like he's creating like a autobiography of just like moments in his life. And it's and we get to watch it, right? Because we're fight fans, and it's incredible. Like I love to see it. I love to see it. Dricus Duplessis, they could use that clip of that post-fight interview to hype that fight. And Dricus could do an interview. I guarantee you he's gonna be on Arrow Hawani next week. That's what's gonna happen. Like the UFC is working with Ariel because he has the biggest platform. He has the biggest show in the sport, even though I don't watch it, but I'm saying like he does, right? Most fans watch that of the sport. But like, yeah, that's what's gonna happen. I could see it, man. And Hamzat's gonna be out there hanging to dry. He's gonna have to fight somebody like Robert Whitaker or Vettori. I would like to see him fight Vettori. I think Vettori's the fight that they can make because Vettori's fought for the title. He's fought Izzy twice. You know what I mean? They could build off that if Hamzat goes in there and completely annihilates him. And I don't think it's gonna be an easy fight for Hamzat at all.